Footy and Frothies, round 3 is in the books, and the old Dagstar, Barney and Oliver are here to look back on all of it. Oh, it was a cracking weekend of rugby league, Ollie. It was, and Barney, hello.
Hello.
I'm looking at Ollie's big head here, so he can go first. Barney, other Barney, what's going on, Ollie?
Not much. I mean, yeah, a great weekend of footy, but Jesus Christ, my tips. I couldn't pick up a disease in a brothel at this point. 3 from 8 this weekend, after a 2 from 8 and a 4 from 8 the week before. So I'll ask you boys quickly, if I automate my tips this week, is it all the home teams or all the away teams? Do you know how it works on ESPN? Because that's what I'm doing.
That's literally just question.
I'm just going the auto tips this week as an experiment to see if I actually out-tip myself, because I think I will.
I like that you've bought into all the comps we offer and clearly don't give a shit about any of them, but it's good that you...
I think they just tip the favourites, to be honest.
Probably just a market favourite, I'd suggest.
I mean, that's not a bad shout at this point.
Yeah. Anyway, how are you?
You still end up with 3.
Yeah, exactly. Impossible. But how are you, all right? Your hair looks nice.
Yeah, doing all right. Currently in Montenegro this week.
Right.
Traveling from Mexico. Well, isn't it obvious?
Oh, yeah.
The
Sorry.
Montenegro Toronto Wolfpack Society. I've met up with my friends from that. Old Rajan, Artie and Armin. So, yeah, it was good to catch up with them. And still in Montenegro, staying at Artie's house. His wife cooks a mean feed.
Some, what do they cook in Montenegro? Something to do with goat, I'd assume.
Oh, food, hopefully.
I was going to say that. What's that egg dish with the tomato in it? But that's it's Nigerian or something. Anyway, Barney, hello. What's going on?
Had the kitchen ripped out today, so that's going to be a bit of an inconvenience for the next couple of weeks.
Food for you.
No, be all in electric fry pans and reheated dinners out of the freezer for the next 3 weeks or so.
Barbecue or something?
Yeah. No, dog ate the last barbecue.
The new dog or the old dog?
The new one. Chewed up all the knobs off it and the and the gas hose and all the rest of the bits and pieces of it. So, yeah, I'm going to have to probably grab another one of those. Anyone got a spare barbecue I can borrow?
Yeah, if Barbecue's Glory is listening, we do accept sponsorship, so doesn't ask for much, just a little Weber, something like that.
But yeah, good weekend of footy. The defence wasn't the priority for most of the games, but very entertaining moments of footy. Most games offered up at least a good half.
All but the Newcastle game,
if not an
the
hour.
Cowboys game was still live in 10 minutes to go.
Yep. Absolutely.
Game on. But I thought it was the most enjoyable, except for some results, most enjoyable weekend of footy. Just touch on some news first, though. John Setler passed away this afternoon. News has come out, so our condolences to the family and friends there.
Absolutely.
Obviously a legend of the game, one of the toughest, there's going to be plenty spoken about him in the days to come, I'd assume, both via the Rabbitohs and the NRL, but one of the toughest blokes to play the game, the legendary broken jaw grand final. He's one of the great stories. Well
sad. Before our time, unfortunately. Yeah. So probably don't have a lot of comment on it apart from what you hear, what everyone's already heard in the media. But condolence to the family and a club legend that I'm sure will be honoured for weeks to come.
Yeah, I can't really argue. I mean, anyone really born after the moon landing, it's hard to have any solid memories of John Setler. But the one that everyone obviously always talks about is that 1970 grand final against Manly, where he broke his jaw early on in the game and kept playing. And it's sort of nice to, I guess, look back on the 2014 grand final as well, when Sam Burgess broke his cheekbone early. I think it was the first tackle of that game. And the story that was told afterwards is that part of what sort of kept him on the field is he actually remembered hearing that story, or I don't know whether he watched the game or not, but he said that had an influence on him wanting to stay on the field for his team. And he ended up winning the Clive Churchill medal for South Sydney that day. So it's crazy just to see sort of the impact that 50 odd years later on that effort from John Setler has had throughout the game. And of course his son as well, Scott Setler, making a try-saving tackle against Todd Byrne in the 2003 grand final against the Roosters. I mean, big moments are not only made by this bloke, but they seem to come from this bloke. So he has an everlasting legacy in the game.
I don't think we can add much more to that. Let's tie in injury news. Danny Levi's out for 10 weeks with a broken jaw. After, unfortunately, copying that in the first minute or minute and a half of that Cronulla game. Nick Kotrick 6 weeks on the back of that, both unfortunate. Sam Verrills, Ollie, broken collarbone. Didn't see that one coming. He's indefinitely out. Wade Egan, HIA, but probably, well, I don't know if he's Category 1, but they're going to wait and see. Hamley,
pretty bad.
Yeah. Sele is Category 1, so he won't be in this week. Question marks over Shaq Mitchell, Dan Saifidi, and Matt Dorridge. Yet to hear there. And Mitch Barnett left on a stretcher and didn't look good either. He had some nerve issues and he lost some feeling after he left the field, but has been given the all clear. So, Oli, no hooker for a bit.
Oh, well, the one that we had on the weekend wasn't too bad, and I mean the result wasn't horrible either. So I'm not panicking just yet. Again, we're in a bit of a weird time at the moment, just with all these upsets and these teams that you thought would be doing a bit better, going a bit worse. We'll talk about it obviously on tomorrow night's show, the preview show. But the Titans got the Cowboys this week, so generally I'd be saying this is a huge out, but. It's sort of just wait and see, I think, for the next couple of weeks. And Chris Randall, obviously, at least he's sort of known for his defence. I think on debut, was it him who made 70 tackles or something? He's usually solid in defence, and Verrills is usually decent there as well. So if he could at least keep that up, and again, the Titans are a team who like to leak a lot of points, at least limit his mistakes, no stupid mistakes out of dummy half, and we can at least have someone there as a decent stopgap until Verrills is fit again.
Grass.
Definitely. As I remember to record Oliver's head for the remainder of this show, so let me just put you there, Ollie, in the corner. That's better. Now, signing news. Well, judiciary news. Kafusi is challenging his downgrade, so he's looking at 3 to 4 weeks for his hit, which ultimately was. I thought it was late, but they're challenging a 3 to 4 weeks there. Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I'd probably be challenging it too, to be honest. I don't think it was overly late or when it wasn't high or anything like that. So, I don't blame the club for seeking a downgrade on that one.
Joey Manu got a week, took the early plea for that tackle, which again...
Lucky he didn't get 2 or 3, I think.
I think so.
It wasn't great.
No carry over, but he was going. I thought he was going. I'm not going to defend him, but I thought he was going for the ball. Like, only I think the set before, pretty much before that, someone else made a break and he made the try save.
Yes, absolutely.
Over the same style of tackle, but didn't look good, Ollie.
Yeah, it was pretty close to that. Obviously, that big try saver before, and I agree. I think he was going for the ball, and maybe could have gotten another week or so. But I'm not. I don't think he's overly lucky with the result. I think that I can understand where the NRL's coming from, especially with him taking the early guilty play.
And Jerome Hughes looking at 1 to 2 weeks. I believe contesting was the last I saw. I haven't seen anything since.
I don't know what he's contesting. That's an out-and-out shoulder charge every day of the week.
So I don't think I'll be seeing him this week.
It's probably a really silly decision, to be honest. A halfback on a halfback when your team's already decimated with injuries and you're missing a lot of strike in your spine, and then you go and do that as the halfback and the chief playmaker. You go and make that decision. That's a brain fade if ever I've seen one.
Yeah, I'm not sure Melbourne are with us, but we'll get to that. They do get Munster back this week, I'm told.
Yeah, well, there's probably another Melbourne player that I think's quite lucky to not be there with Hughes that we'll get to when we get to the Titans Storm game, to be honest.
And signing news, Tom Burgess extended for next year, so he's going to have another run with the Bunnies. The Sharks have signed Tuku Hau Tapua, a big front rower from the Roosters, to clear the decks for Nathan Brown to come in. And apparently Wilton's agreed to terms. Kennedy is a matter of time, but apparently the Tigers are trying, according to Fox Sports, so take that with the standard Fox Sports grain of salt, are trying to make a play for Will Kennedy. So
I think the Sharks will be doing everything they can to sign up Kennedy, to be honest. There's not a huge amount of fullback options out there.
They need to make another Tiger story up today.
He's already proven his worth the first couple of rounds this year, to be honest, and what he did at the back end of last year. Wilton's a no-brainer as well. You've seen what he's done at the start of this year and last year.
Both their back rows have been fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic. So, good signings. A large middle, which I've been crying out for that we need with young fella. So, probably won't break into the team this year. Maybe play a little bit towards the back end, but hopefully someone for the future that sizes up that middle for the Sharks. So.
Oh, you like shit counting the Tigers in your stories, you're right. Anything on Bubba Kennedy at your end?
No, well, all I've read really was slightly different to you guys. That I guess sort of combining it both together is that the Tigers are interested in looking to sign him, but apparently Cronulla does not see that as a threat whatsoever. Kennedy isn't really interested in that. He's just going to re-sign and that it's a matter of negotiating. So I don't know. Kennedy would be a good get for the Tigers though, but
I'd say he's pretty happy.
Yeah.
The worst thing that happened to the Tigers this year in terms of recruitment is they took the field.
Hasn't helped.
Exactly. If they'd just not played a game to this date, I'm sure they would have got other players excited. But anyway.
Yeah, their back line for the Sharks do look very, very happy, and most of them have signed on again. So I think they plan on staying together for a few years. So.
If I'm now the Tigers with $2 million to spend, I assume there's going to be some casualties this year. If it's not Brooks and Laurie, it'll be someone. I'd be looking at Williams and Wellesby. Go to England, try and beg them to come over and save us. Anyway, we'll get to that. Great round of footy, though. Anything else you want to talk about, Ollie?
Not really. I'm ready to get into it.
Yeah, same here, mate.
All right, well, crazy round of footy. We saw 40-degree days across, I think, for 38 40-degree games in action, including the hottest game ever played in Canberra. I've been informed by whoever's commentator, Matt Russell, I assume, told us that. But, yeah, it was the hottest recorded kickoff at Bruce, so therefore probably the hottest game ever played, given they don't get too many 40-degree days in March. We'll get to that one soon, though. And as I said earlier, every game was still alive with 10 to go. It's pretty exciting. And it has been all the great. I cannot fault a single round of rugby league because I've been entertained by every game I've watched to date. Even though one or two may have been in a car crash style fashion. It did kick off, though, with Manly 34 beating Para 30 in an exciting game where the heat took its toll, and there was plenty of accidents happening, shall we say, Barney? What did the stats say?
Yeah, we had 6 tries for both sides, 4 out of 6 conversions for Manly, 3 out of 6 for Parramatta. A missed 2-point field goal attempt and 1 out of 1 penalty attempts for Manly. 28 out of 40 sets, played 25 out of 39. 197 plus run meters for Parramatta. 3 line breaks to 6. 33 tackle busts, played 24th. That'd be a lot. 7 offloads to 19 for Parramatta. 0 40-20s. 267 tackles, played 284. 0 ruck infringements from both sides. 2 inside the 10 against Parramatta. 7 penalties conceded for both teams and 14 errors by both sides. Jake made 35 tackles, Hodgson with 39, Tom made 204 running metres, and Penasini made 181. Supercoach points, Tom Trebojevic with 103, Dylan Brown with 88, and Gutherson with 84.
Yes, many a coach brought back the old-fashioned Tommy Turbo loop.
Yes.
On a Thursday night. But, Barn, what do you think of the game?
Still didn't help me that much, to be honest. But
you loop, did you?
I've won 2 out of 3, but yeah. I did loop because I didn't have too many other big scoring options left in my side. Yeah, well, Manly came out firing. They took the fight to Parramatta. They obviously decided that they were going to win that 20 minutes that Parramatta seemed to win most games that they play. And their defensive aggression, especially at the start of the game, was key to Manly winning this game. Every time things got close, they seemed to ramp up the aggression in defence and started whacking their middle forwards, which really slowed down the middle of the Parramatta attack. Parramatta, again, played in spits and farts and played in 10 and 15-minute periods, like they've done for a large part of the year, which Cronulla's mirrored as well to start this year, to be honest. But, yeah, Manly were definitely on top for the first 15, 20 minutes, and then Parramatta came back, but they only ever sort of gained the ascendancy for 15, 20 minutes max. And when Manly packed up shop, Parramatta really sort of came back, and I think Manly could have run away with this game and put a lot of points. Like if they put their foot on the throat and just didn't.
First half,
because
they were owning them. Like isn't it? It's almost like Parramatta didn't know what to do once the 2 front rows started
middles
getting
got
bashed.
stopped.
They really got bad, and they had nothing at all. Like they were just Hopgood ended up cooked and had to go off. Well, unless it was some BA master plan. Parramatta fans haven't confirmed. They're the best barometer for how good a coach Brad Arthur is. But, and he had to use his whole bench, which tells you something as well. But the answers didn't come till late, and it wasn't until the pressure really came off.
But every time Manly sort of seemed to get out in front, they just eased up and started just sort of playing through the motions, and they really eased up on their line speed and their defensive aggression, which what saw them comfortably beat Canterbury in the first round. But they only sort of did it in, again, 10 or 15 minute periods where both sides were doing that. As I said, they tried to cruise through, and this game ended up being who could fuck up worse than the other team, realistically. There was periods where both teams just continually dropped balls, gave away penalties, and it was sort of like 10 minutes of, we've just completely thrown this game out of the water. What do you guys got? And then the other side would do exactly the same thing. There's intercept tries, points coming directly from errors and penalties. Both teams have got some work to do here. Their defensive patterns, they're both rushing on the edges, which led to points as well.
It just has to be, and it should have been already, but you just have to always back the left winger playing Parramatta. You just have to do it as first try scorer. They will score 15 games out of 30 this year. Again in this game, and I was upset at myself for not doing it. Anyway.
Both benches from both sides added 3/5 of fuck all. But both starting packs were good. Hamole, Aloye and Jake were the best for Manly. Junior was by far the best middle for Parramatta. I thought he was fantastic again, and he's had a really good start to the year, to be honest. Hodgson caused a few problems late in the game with some tired defence. Penasini and Gutho were the best players for Parramatta, I thought. They really added some impact out the back there for the Parramatta side. Garrick was great, and Tommy was easily the difference. He's in the right spot just about all the time. He's backing up, and then he's got a good pass and some good footwork to go with it. So,
Oliver?
Well, both fullbacks I thought were great. This was really the battle of the fullbacks, I thought, when it came down to it in this one. And just to Barney's point, sort of the opening of the game, I thought the first half was Parramatta's worst half of football for the whole season so far, easily. And after 23 and a half minutes, they'd actually completed 4 from 10 sets. So they only had 4 completions. And after that, Manly did start to get a little bit clunky, start giving some stuff away to Parramatta. And all that ended up with a Tom Trbojevic try. So I thought, here we go. This could be a space job here.
Yeah.
But then making something from nothing for Parramatta's first try on the last tackle as well. Brilliant. Clint Gutherson. And that sort of shifted the momentum for the rest of the first half. That was in the 32nd minute. And just on Paulo and how important he is to Parramatta. And I guess you want to bring up a Brad Arthur masterclass in terms of his interchange.
Yeah.
Paulo went off at the 28th minute and came back on at the 34th minute. He had 6 minutes on the bench at one point, so they took him off and went, oh shit, and put him back on. So a masterclass there from Brad Arthur. And then Matt Doru's try, a try off of a penalty. The momentum 100% going Parramatta's way at this point after a poor first half. And it was a great line run from Matt Dory, I thought. And then Parramatta just looked a lot more confident after that, heading into half-time. The set after the Dory try, they made 70 metres from the kickoff, and that continued into the second half a little bit. I thought the end of the first half and the early stages of the second half was probably Parramatta's best period. And again, 44 and a half minutes into the game, who else but Clint Gutherson? Another amazing individual effort, making something from nothing to score. He had his hands everywhere in this game.
You can clearly tell when you do your notes as the game's going on, Ollie. I like it.
Well, how else would you do them? But since that point,
of course not on Monday morning. Like an idiot.
It was all Manly from that point on, to be honest. And even when late in the game, Parramatta sort of picked back up and got those tries late, I still sort of thought Manly were on top. I mean, it was a lot closer, and Manly weren't necessarily great. As Barney said, it was more both sides giving the ball away to each other. But I thought Manly were probably still on top. But again, the Tom Trbojevic double, and he had his hand in everything as well. I've got the stats for both players here. We got Turbo with 2 tries and assists, 204 running meters, a tackle break and a line break. And then Gutho, 2 tries, 156 running meters, 2 tackle breaks and 2 line breaks. So quite close there. Turbo just getting the better of him. And I'd probably just give the nod to Turbo as well. I thought he was a bit better, but I will note that Gutherson, to do what he did, had to put in a lot more effort because he didn't have the help there, to be honest, at a lot of time alongside him, and he almost single-handedly kept his side in this game. I mean, his 2 tries literally were all him. There was no one else sort of putting him through, no one else making any opportunities for him. He sort of got the ball and went, well, shit, I'm going to have to try something here, and it paid off both times. And I believe he got the assist to Dory as well. I'm not too sure of that one off the top of my head. Probably the only player who sort of really impressed me off the bench from either side was Sean Cappy. 38 minutes, 85 run meters and 27 tackles. So he did a bit of work during that time. I thought Hodgson had a solid game in defence, and that try that he got, it was, again, sort of something came out of nothing. Parramatta just passing the ball around, the gap opened up, and off went Hodgson from about halfway there. Brown was fine in terms of his running. He made 23 tackles and didn't miss any at all either. And Schuster was great setting up opportunities for Manly, and he was sort of that X factor that they needed. 3 try assists for him.
Dylan Brown's play of the ball in the second half was one of my favourite moments of the year. I was talking to someone about footy. No, we just fell over his head. Yeah. We just did it. I don't know. I was talking to someone about footy the other day and I started thinking of it and just pissed myself laughing. So probably just to whoever that was that thinks I'm a complete weirdo. And Josh Hodgson, Josh Hodgson try used to remind me when I used to score tries in touch footy, when I'd make a break and no one would be chasing me, and I'd go, no, they're not going to catch me. They're not going to catch me.
Well, they seemed to pass the ball around 3 or 4 times with nothing going on, and Manly, it just seemed like they went, okay, let's just part the Red Sea here for you, and then boom, Hodgson was through.
Exactly. I'm going to stump up for Josh Hodgson. I think he's been good. I think he's getting better. I think all right, you can say he's not Reed Marnie, but I think
he's running on old legs. What do you expect?
But you can see the will's still there. You can see he's still got the brains and the wits and the wherewithal, so good luck to him. And it's probably not easy having 3 blokes in the spine that spend the whole time either demanding it or whinging about not getting it. So good luck to him. Whatever. They're going to run 15th and they're going to want BA sacked, but luckily he's just signed another 5-year deal. I want to talk about Josh. Quickly, Ruben Garrick, any touch, quick one. Jeez, he's a good player.
Absolutely.
The ability to bust tackles, make yards, kick goal. He just is a great first grade winger. Yeah. He's probably, he's not top pick, but he's top 5 in terms of. He's one of those players you'd say deserves an Origin spot at some point.
He's pretty clinical. You don't see the ball going out to him and him just dropping it cold very often. He's generally always. He'll either put a dent in the line or beat the first tackler and get in behind the line, and then someone else has to come across, and that just creates more gaps around him. Good footwork, big, strong fella, and decent pace, and a really good goal kick and boot to go with it. So
great asset for them, and very good footballer. Now, Josh Schuster, I loved how he played on. We haven't touched on it yet. I loved how he played. He played the right way he should play. He took the line on. He ran the ball a lot, but then he'd run the ball enough to get the defender engaged. And we got Tom Travojevic outside you, and then Ruben Garrick outside him. That's a very scary combination because he's drawing that man in and creating either half an overlap or at least straightening those defenders up. And if he pops it, either Tommy's going straight through or Tommy's drawing 2 blokes, Ruben's going, and I thought he was tremendous. I thought a couple of his late touches were good, and I thought he led the kick that led to the try as well. But some of his other kicks were pretty good. I was impressed.
There's a bit of subtlety to what he was doing as well, because he'd be going across and on that angle, and he'd slow right down. So the defence either has to then rush him or they sit back and wait. And as soon as they sat back and wait, he then straightens back up and angles between 2 defenders. So that causes them both to come in.
Yeah.
And he accelerates at him as well. So, and he's got really good, that first 2 or 3 steps, he's really quite sharp over those first 2 or 3 steps. So that makes him make snap decisions. It draws both players onto the one tackler, and then there's automatically a space outside him. So whether he plays short or long, there's holes outside him. So.
And then when those holes are filled by a Tuolangi, Travojevic or Garrick, that's pretty scary stuff. I liked how he played. You eat out on that, Oli?
He did sort of gas out. I'd say his second half was pretty quiet, but he definitely.
And he's lucky he's got
something.
The comp's best halfback to cover for him if he needs him to. Nothing else, Oli? Cool.
Yeah. No, not really.
But there's lots of good signs for Manly. And Olakau'atu is his usual good self. Great in the air, they pinpointed that. Yeah, everyone likes to rave about Nanai, but
he's still happy to do work as well. He doesn't just sort of sit back and wait to strike. He's pretty happy to carry the ball, and he doesn't mind putting a shot on either. He gets pretty revved up when he puts a shot on in defence.
So look, still a bit happy to see Manly improve from this.
Yeah, I think they will. I think both sides will definitely improve going forward.
Para get Madison back this week. They
Lane a couple of weeks.
To Lane, they'll be happy. I think Matt Dory was good. I think he's done enough to deserve that. He'll get the bench spot.
Yeah,
but he's
Cartwright will
good.
be the first one out, I would imagine.
Cartwright played 80 minutes, was fine. All those sort of bench back rows have been good. But you'd imagine Hopgood keeps that.
McIntyre will go before.
Absolutely.
Before Cartwright.
So... Look, an entertaining game. Kick us off. Para 0-3. They've now got, I think, Penrith, Brisbane, and someone else terrible.
Roosters, I think.
And then we've got. There is the possibility that Easter Monday it could be Tigers and Para, and they could both go in
0-8, 0-6 or whatever it is,
and play out a nil or draw just for.
It definitely won't be nil or.
No, it'll be 63,
30 to
62. No, I don't know how Tigers will ever score 62 points. That's a different story. Great game started. More upside for both, but I still think there's upside now. You get Schuster fit and up and going for Manly. 3 points Turbo, 2 points Gutho. The one's interesting. I still had a rap on Schuster. Olakau'atu was good. Hodgson good. Who are you going to throw up? Garrick was very good.
Yeah, I thought Garrick was fantastic. And maybe Dylan Brown from Parramatta. I thought he was probably the dominant half for them. But
Mitch Moses did have a couple of try assists and was all right. Whinged a lot. That's like shouting at referees. But anyway.
Or Penasini. But
actually, Penasini. What do you reckon, Ollie? Penasini or Garrick?
Probably Garrick, I'd go out of those two.
All right, 1 point to Garrick. We got to Friday night, which kicked off with 36-20 in the end. The Dolphins over the Knights, who were brave, very brave actually.
They were very brave
for an hour, and I think class just prevailed in the end there. I think if you're I'll let you do the stats, Barn, but I think if you're a Knights fan, you shouldn't be too discouraged from what was shown. At least there's effort there.
Dolphins had too many scoring opportunities realistically at the end of the game, but it was 3 tries to 7. 3 out of 3 conversions, played 4 out of 7 for the Dolphins, and 1 out of 1 penalty attempt for Newcastle. 27 out of 37 sets for Newcastle, 37 out of 42 for the Dolphins. 174 plus running metres to the Dolphins, 3 line breaks to 6, 25 tackle busts for Newcastle, 19 for the Dolphins. 6 offloads to 3, 1 forced dropout from both sides, 0 40-20s, 1 ruck infringement against both sides, and 1 inside the 10 against Newcastle. 5 penalties to 7, 16 errors for Newcastle, 5 for the Dolphins, and a sin bin for the Dolphins. Crossland made 50 tackles, Gilbert made 41, Miller with 212 running metres, and Tessie New with 230. Supercoach points were Tessie New with 102, Miller with 92, and Asako with 78.
And the trend continued every game this week, which saw a sin bin score the
try while someone was
off. With 12 blokes. Isn't it amazing? It's been for 2 years now.
It's like they're trained for it or something.
Ollie, you want to have a go at this one?
Yeah, Barney, you brought up the errors, and I think that's really what let Newcastle down. Within the first 10 minutes, they'd made 3 errors, and that really allowed the Dolphins to get on top. Of course, Tessie New scoring his first try of the game during that period, and makes history because, of course, he is the first ever Dolphins try scorer in an away game. I really wanted it to be the Hammer, but Tessie New with good effort there and went on to score 2 more tries, of course. So good on him.
Jeez, you sound like Don Mosley these days, Ollie. You're very good at it. Oh, yeah, it might be before your time. I'm going to start calling you the Velvet Frog.
It was Fog, wasn't it? Not Frog.
I know. Keep going, Ollie. Keep going. No, I like it. I mean, that's a wrap. Trust me. Go on.
It is a wrap. Yeah.
It's a wrap. Go. Keep going.
All right. The connection's not so good here.
I'm going to giggle about the Velvet Frog because I'm happy
to get back to Australia. Well, at the 20-minute mark as well, they showed the stat that the Dolphins had 8 tackles within Newcastle's 20, and Newcastle had 0 within the Dolphins' 20. So you can sort of see why that they weren't really scoring any points, because they weren't getting in the position to score points until a great kick from Gamble.
Good game from Gamble, actually.
Yeah, I thought
I would make the argument. Sorry to butt in, but we talk shit. I would make the argument they should keep Tyson Gamble at 6 even when Pong is back. And they may well do because of health issues, but Gamble brings a nice mongrel. He did a fair enough job for Brisbane. And
what are you going to do with Miller?
I can play him instead of
Ponga.
Heimel Hunt. Like, seriously.
Put him out in the centres and the wing. Yeah, okay.
Put him wherever you want. Put him at 14. Put Ponga at 14. Anyway, keep going.
Well, it was a perfectly placed kick to him as well, because Hammer was right there. It was sort of in that same motion when collecting the ball, just bumping Hammer off. It was beautiful just to crash over and score there. And that was sort of when the momentum started to shift. I will give a shout out, though, to Sean O'Sullivan for his goal line effort against Lachlan Miller, who would end up having a really good game as well. But Newcastle, again, they started to look more confident. They started, just the way they were playing, they started really pressing the Dolphins there for a few minutes, right up until they just sort of had a cataclysm of errors. 2 errors from Dom Young, 1 from a try-scoring opportunity in the Dolphins in goal when the momentum was going their right way, which really stopped it, because then he also knocked the ball on from that kick return and then gave away the 6 again for what I believe was it Tessie New's second try? It was the Dolphins' second try, at least. But a shout out as well to Leo Thompson. By the 32nd minute mark, he had 25 tackles. And again, with a bench of 3 debutants that you probably weren't going to expect to put in big numbers, at least in their first game, he was really standing up and is really becoming a sort of a consistent player in this side. And they definitely need him, especially with the injuries that they've got. And then we had that escort play from Gay to Miller, which I was sort of scratching my head as to why he did that. It seemed pretty blatant to me, and that led to another Dolphins try as well. We're sort of getting that theme here that most of these Dolphins tries are coming off of mistakes from Newcastle, which, again, as I said, in the end, is what really let them down. Interesting as well, 52 minutes into the game, Katoa and O'Sullivan have 1 run each. You don't usually see that from your halves, but hey, it was working to that point. And sort of to sum up the game for the Dolphins, who would kick on sort of in the second half to go on and win. They might not have the best side on paper. And I know that they're second at the moment and they're playing great, but on paper, it's not overall the best side. At least we didn't think so heading into this game. But something that Wayne Bennett might have told them was, hey, if we hold on to the ball, if we actually limit our errors against no matter the opposition, we're at least going to be in with the fight. It also helps when your opposition makes error after error after error and gives you those opportunities. But if you're able to hold on to the ball, especially against the lower table teams who are going to make those errors, then you probably are going to win comfortably. And that's what the Dolphins do.
That's the Velvet Flog, Ollie, reporting on that.
Flog now, not frog. Right.
No, that was very succinct, Oliver. I liked it a lot. All the hype around the Dolphins forward pack, it was their back 5 that were the stars in this game, I thought. Aitken was outstanding, Branko Lee was outstanding, Tessie New made over 200 and plus metres, and the hammer was you yourself. Asako's playing good footy, and geez, he's a good kicker. This year, seeing everything. This year, they've just he is in general, but it just seems everything's falling into place. As a very, very sound rugby league team, obviously coached well, and that was the difference. They were more clinical. The Knights, I'm not sure what, they were only enemies at times, but I think they would say that, if you're a Knights fan, like I said, I think they would say they overperformed against expectations. They only blew out late. I know he's a one-man band and he's getting gambled. Like I said, I would stick with Gamble there, but as to your point, where do you put everyone else? I don't know.
Well, Lachlan Miller was their best attacking option in this game.
I
think he works best at fullback.
You know what the problem is?
5'8".
It's the problem is, what is Jackson Hastings?
Yeah, I don't know.
Now I've seen him in for another team. Sure. Look, he's clearly a very good first-grade footballer. He's as good a defensive half or whatever he might be in the game. I think he is a lock.
Let him play lock and kick. And
or, like I said last week, maybe a good dummy half.
7 and Ponga to 6, but as you said, against expectations, I really did not expect Newcastle to be as good as they were for the first hour of this game, and they were pretty good. It had a lot to do with their back row. I thought their back row was tremendous from Newcastle for that 100%. First hour of this game. And Crossland I never knew he could make 50 tackles, let alone fucking be out there for as long as he was. He may have found his spot at hooker. He actually looked quite good at hooker there. And his passing game wasn't too bad off the ground either. But obviously Brayley pushes him out when he comes back. But decent backup hooker and may now be 14 for the rest of the year.
Just to double down your point,
but
Lachlan Fitzgibbon has been a favourite pot plan of ours.
He has. For good
4 years.
3 years, yeah.
But he's now their main point of attack. He's hitting the right holes at the right time and playing great foot. Like, looks dangerous every time he touches the footy. You know, he's at wherever the penny's dropped, whether it's just they've finally worked out the way to use him, but he has been outstanding all year.
Like, the scores blew out late, but I expected it to happen pretty much as soon as the second half started, to be honest, because there were signs there, but Newcastle, they scrambled and they hung tough for a long part. They did fall apart late. But they're making just way too many mistakes, and that's what killed them in the end. The Dolphins' attack was just much more organised than Newcastle. O'Sullivan's a really good controlling halfback. Who would have known? Like, he gets them into positions. He plays well with his back rowers, and he links up well with young Katoa at different times. And he's fullback when they chime in. He's does a lot right without getting too much wrong. He doesn't set the world on fire, but he does a lot right, which is.
Isn't it funny to see a team win nursing their halves as opposed to a team we'll talk about later who can't win in spite of their halves? But anyway,
I wonder who you might be talking about.
Yeah.
Dom Young had a night to forget. He had 6 errors in this game, which is, considering he was quite good the week before and quite bad the week before that. So who knows? That may be something that carries on throughout the year. But yeah, he had a bad one in this one. Hetherington ran around with his angry head on again and seemed to have very little impact. But he was trying to hurt someone, even he just didn't really get hold of anyone during the game. I thought Matt Croker was good off the bench for Newcastle, and Crossland was good at hooker. Frizzell and Fitzgibbon were massive for Newcastle and kept them in the game, as I said earlier.
Young Ryan Rivett, he's got something.
Yeah, he does.
He will.
Nice passing game and some good feet. So be good to see him get some game time during the year. Yeah, Gamble was really strong and Miller was fantastic. He was every time they were looking for points, they were looking to him to provide them, and he did. I thought Kenny Bromwich was, quite good with Lumilube, but the highlight was Kenny Bromwich with the flying headbutt, wasn't it? To the groin.
To the Jats crackers.
Poor Gamble. He would have been speaking with a very high voice for a bit of time.
I reckon there's footballers across the NRL waiting to do that to Tyson Gamble.
Oh, mate, he didn't miss him.
He'd have been sledging into higher octave for the rest of the game.
Did not miss him.
You filthy jerk.
Jesse did a job, but yet to sort of really stamp himself as, he's sort of been left behind by your Kafusis and his brother.
Tom Gilbert.
Start this year, and Tom Gilbert is a fucking
Gilbert's
beast. I
outstanding.
haven't got to him yet. But mate,
Sorry.
he has been killing it. 3 weeks in a row, he's been close to their best player 3 weeks in a row.
I compared him and Hopgood the other week. And
there's a team up in North Queensland that's really missing somebody who does all that work in the middle of the field and cover up all the bullshit that you're now seeing what's coming through the middle of the field for the Cowboys. But Tessie cashed in on some really, all he did really was finish. He didn't sort of do anything super apart from grab the thing and put the ball down. But a couple of really nice finishes to cash in on a game. And Aitken was fantastic as you mentioned, and Gilbert was brilliant. Gilbert was the best player on the field by a mile. I gave the 2 to Tessie New just because of his finishing. And then I either had Aitken, O'Sullivan or Miller for the 1 point. But
I had Aitken, Fitzgibbon or Miller.
Ollie?
All right. I reckon go with Aitken then.
Aitken?
Yeah. Oh, you little soft spot there.
He was fantastic, though.
Yeah, he's very good. The main event, Friday night, 20-18, the Barneys went down to the Chooks. Barney, what did the stats say as we saw perhaps some return to what we expect from the Roosters?
Yeah, 4 tries to 3, 2 out of 4 conversions played 2 out of 3, a missed 2-point field goal attempt, and 1 out of 2 penalty attempts for South Sydney. 30 out of 39 sets. For the Roosters, played 23 out of 37. 4 line breaks to 7, 28 tackle busts to 32, 9 offloads to 5, 2 forced dropouts by the Roosters, 3 by South Sydney. 0 40-20s, 336 tackles played, 358, 4 ruck infringements against Souths, 1 inside the 10 against the Roosters, 4 penalties conceded to 5, 9 errors from the Roosters, 15 from South Sydney. A sin bin from both sides. Radley made 47 tackles, Cook made 42, Jackson Bolo made 192 running metres, and Campbell Graham with 194. Bolo with 97 Supercoach points, Keon Kulamatangi with 92, and Campbell Graham with 83.
I'd almost want to let the Velvet Flog have another crack at this first. Go on, Ollie.
Well, South Sydney didn't get off to the best start with Setler obviously going down in the first minute, leaving South with 16 players. Of course, he's the first, I don't want to say casualty, but the first player to have the 11-day stand-down rule implemented for head injuries. But then after that, the Roosters were very poor for most of this first half. It gave me Parramatta vibes. I've got to say, like, the Roosters were quite poor. It all kicked off with Joey Manu in the 5th minute. Of course, he didn't realise the 6 again was called. Still thought it was the last tackle. Got tackled and
gave
then
it back to him.
It just makes you go, oh! It's just one of those moments. It was like like Dylan Walker's pass towards the end of the game against the Roosters last week. One of those things that just makes you go, oh! And Penasini as well, I should say, in the Paramanly game when the ball was free right in front of the line, he picked it up and just seemed like he
tripped over his own feet.
Couldn't put it down. Like, oh boy, there's going to be a good blooper reel at the end of the year, I feel.
Or Johnny Bateman drowning with his face.
Yes.
Don't talk about it.
But then a great line run from Keon Kalamatangi to score for Souths in the 8th minute. The thing I really took from this was Ilias held the ball up perfectly just to get that little bit of a gap for him to crash through, and then the support play and the cutouts for Alex Johnson to score the second try of the game. And it had been all South Sydney for at least the first 15 minutes, and that would then continue. There was nothing going the Roosters' way until we got about 34 and a half minutes into this game, and it came from the cheese, that individual effort from dummy half, ran through the dummy, just went himself and scored, and that pretty much changed the complexion of the game from there. Souths were pretty much done. They'd packed up. They'd gone home before halftime. And then towards the end of the half, we had Keary kick the ball out to Daniel Tupou, obviously skyrocketing up into the air to get that one and put it down, to get the Roosters back into the game heading into halftime. And then I thought Keary had a great game in this one, both on the ball and in defence. I believe in defence he made 31 tackles, which is probably what you'd expect from a front rower, but from a half, and especially Luke Keary with all the head injuries he's been having, to make 31 tackles is a brilliant effort. I don't think Trent Robinson will be wanting him to make 31 tackles every week, though. I feel like he might want him to sort of sit back. I got here at one point, 56 minutes in the game. Egan Butcher loves to bleed. He bled last week. He bled in round 1 as well, and it was from the same spot. It was funnier this week because he just sort of made the tackle, and it didn't look like anything was wrong. He got up, he looked normal, and then you just see claret just start forming in his head and coming down. You're like, oh shit! But then not too long
after,
up
to his name, Haley.
Leaving up to Butcher, yeah.
Bradley doesn't mind to bleed either. He's pretty good at bleeding.
About 60 minutes into the game, though, now I've taken this down. This that I'm about to read out all happened within a 3-minute period. And I wonder if you guys remember this period in the game. So the Roosters knocked the ball on. Then the next play, Souths knocked the ball on. Then the Roosters knocked the ball on. I think it was through Joseph Sawali. And then the Souths knocked the ball on. Then the Roosters knocked the ball on again. And then Totola knocks the ball on. Nobody wanted the ball. Within a 3-minute period, I think it was
and
3
Totola, did Totola go to the Captain's Challenge? Was that the? No, I think he was just whinging about it.
I know he
no, they did. They lost the challenge.
Sure they lost
the challenge to Totola, yeah.
But within that whole 10-minute period between the 50th and 60th minute, 10 mistakes were made. 5 to the 6 to the Roosters and 4 to South Sydney. So there you go. And then not long after that, we got that big try-saving tackle, obviously, from Joseph Manu, knocking the ball out of the hands of the South. Who was it? Was it Tass for South Sydney?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And then Latrell, with that poor dropout, went. Was it?
6
Did it go
metres.
out? Or it went? Yeah, it was just a shitty dropout after a kick out on the full as well. And I thought Latrell looked really good in the first half. Not setting the world alight, but it looked like he was building up to a classic Latrell versus the Roosters performance in that first half. He was cooking, as some people like to say. But then in the second half, he wasn't really seen too much other than those two big errors. I thought Sawali had a really good game as well. And then with about 3 minutes to go, that confrontation between Cameron Murray and Joseph Manu, I think it was. And I've got here, Cody Walker has turned on the peanut. And when Cody Walker turns on the peanut, there's no real getting him back from turning on the peanut. So that, for me, kind of all but ruled South Sydney out there. Although Isaac Thompson, with that try off of the great assist from Campbell Graham right at the end of the game, sort of gave South Sydney a sniff. But a sniff is all they would have because the Roosters were victorious. I'll hand it over in a moment, but someone I want to highlight is Jackson Paulo with his 2 tries, 192 running metres, because when he played for the other team against the Roosters last year, he probably had one of the worst performances we've ever seen from a winger. That had to have been playing on his mind, obviously, this year, and he's come into this game and had close to his best game in first grade. Now,
you're right about the Cheese changing things when he came on, but the catalyst here was Jared Warrior-Hargreaves. He was outstanding. They've been waiting for him for 2.5 weeks to come back. When he came on the field, they were a different team. He just went, right, you flogs. Let's no disrespect, Ollie.
Try and stop.
Let's get going. And he started this. He was outstanding. What is he now? 33, 34. He's just a warrior. He's just someone you want to go to war with.
Just an absolute unit, mate. Like, you look at the size of him across the shoulders and just how thick he is. Yeah. And he runs as quick as he can every time he grabs the ball straight at you.
You know, just good luck. You know, this world of like rugby league boxing, the one I would pay for is in a year or two's time, him versus Fisher Harris.
Sonny Bill or something. Oh, yeah,
Fisher Harris.
Yeah, nice. Junior Baller.
Yeah,
oh, that'd be tasty.
Him and Fish would be, that's what I want to see. Georgie Rose, make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Limit boxing.
Ollie's covered off majority of what I've had to say, to be honest. But, Souths, I thought, dominated pretty early in this game. There's some really nice ball movement for points at the start of this game, which really stood out for me. There was some really nice long passing and pace, like blokes getting beaten on the outside with pace and footwork. And, it was a really entertaining start, apart from, obviously, when the game got bogged down with errors and mistakes and penalties. But there were some really nice flashes of footy that turned into points. And as you mentioned, the cheese and the cross kick that really got the Roosters back into this game. And their scramble to defence, I thought, was one of the reasons they got away with this game as well. Because Souths did have prolonged periods of pressure at different stages, just sort of before half time and in the middle of the second half, where they were starting to mount some attack, and the Roosters turned them away time and time again on their own goal line, which proved pivotal in them getting away with it at the end of it. They stopped 2 or 3 breakaways. Like, they just scrambled and stopped 2 or 3 breakaway attempts from South Sydney.
Not mentioned James Tedesco yet. He was like, his cover defence, he chopped down a couple of those breakaways. Yep. And you just remind me.
He was the man that was cutting down those breakaways. Yeah, absolutely he was. Because he didn't shine in attack like generally when he gets mentioned. He was the guy that. He was there. But he's the guy that sets up tries and scores tries. And whereas he was part of the attack and he was doing plenty of work and he did save a try or two, but it wasn't that highlight reel performance that you expect from Teddy.
But I thought this was A+ Teddy.
Yeah, absolutely. He was fantastic. There's probably two tries at the end of the day that were toss of the coin. Could have gone either way, whether it had been let through as a try.
I am happy they allowed that try with the Manu obstruction, because Walker only had eyes for playing for the penalty.
Yeah, absolutely.
At no point was he, and even if if Manu wasn't, he was never going to stop.
He was never going to touch him. He wouldn't have got a hand on him. But
so I'm happy that, and I will say they're not perfect, the bunker. This year there's been more stuff that I agree with than I haven't, and if nothing else, I'm happy with that.
And just Roosters just seem to have that edge, that little bit more mongrel than what Souths did. They wanted to get down and dirty that little bit more than
Same
Souths
as
did
Penrith
in the middle of
last
the
week,
field.
and I think it just exposes Souths a bit. And yeah, they'll go on their run, they'll win a few. They're now. I declared them as close to minor premiers because I thought they would get hot early, and they're just a good team.
They did, seriously, you got to remember they only had 2 on the bench for a large part of this game.
True.
So they did quite well with their rotation of the middles because they would have been gassed by the end of this game because there was blokes out there playing long minutes that really aren't used to playing long minutes with the early one to Saleh, and I think there was another HIA to one of the forwards, I'm pretty sure, that went off the field. HIA or an injury, but it really...
Cheekham got binned, and
really
Murray spent some time off as well.
Yeah, it really cruelled him in the middle of the field. But yeah, they just managed the game that little bit better than Souths did. I thought Totola was really good. So was Damien Cook. Latrell again, nice at different times, but he was a 50-50 performance.
I think he's trying. It's almost like because he's taken himself away from the pumpkin. He now actively spaced himself from Cody Walker.
Staying out of it. Yeah.
I don't want to say it's to his detriment, but it's like he lives in his little box and he thinks, and he doesn't tend to. Until
the
last
I'm going to
play
make something
where
happen.
He goes,
here.
I'll kick this 40-metre field goal from dummy half, which was a mistake in itself. Like, where was someone giving the ball? He probably kicks it if he gets clean service. It's like he either tries too hard or he tries to take himself out. Yeah. And I feel like it's a conscious thing, or he's tried to take a step back from some of the shit, whether it's a PR thing, whether it's just trying to whatever. But I feel like it's something's a little bit missing.
I thought, Campbell Graham was fantastic again. He's been outstanding this year, and the back end of last year.
People knocking him.
Yeah, I don't get it. Kulamattangi and Murray were fantastic again. Teddy was fantastic. I would have liked to seen him get involved a little bit more just in the very last sort of attacking plays at the line. He was very involved sort of 30, 40 metres out, but when they were down on the line, he sort of sat out the back a little bit, where I would have liked to see him maybe get a little bit more involved. There's one point he almost crashed over for a try in the middle of the field.
I wonder if it's a conscious thing to try and let the criticism has been,
and the halves still breathe.
But also the halves still play both sides of the field, not with each other a lot. I wonder if it's like a conscious thing or whether it's just how it pans out. I don't know.
As you mentioned, Jared, Nat Butcher and Radley, they were just tough as an old boot. They just worked through the middle of the field and probably were the difference at the end of the game.
And I just want to wrap Lindsay Collins again as well. Like at the start, he was single-handedly dragging them forward for a while.
He's been fantastic this year.
He's been great this year. Very good. And happy with picking him in Supercoach as well. So that's good. Manu being back, and he's going to miss this week, but Manu being back helps the cheese because he gets in, does a bit of that dirty dummy half stuff. Absolutely. He would have one or two just darts and make 10 metres and be able to give him a breather and get going. Until Cheese is up and going, I think someone else needs to do some of that tag team stuff he's used to. But I think at least for 40 minutes here, we saw a lot of what the Roosters have to offer, and it's going to beat most teams.
Oh, well, realistically, both teams were probably at 75%, and the Roosters were that little bit better. So there's still improvement in both of these teams.
And Robbo came in after the game and said, guess what? We're going to spend a by-the-way camera on these blokes to get them fitter again. And I think some heads dropped in the Roosters camp.
But we won, Robbo.
But they always have been. They always start slow and they build, and we all shit ourselves, and then come up there and they're going to nurse them through Origin, and then the Roosters are ready to go once we get down the road.
I don't think I've seen a standout team that looks fitter than anyone else at the moment, to be honest.
Well, some of them are expected to, really.
And, the Heat probably has a little bit to do with that, but...
I was going to say, if you had to ask... That's one. Let me think about this, and Ollie, you can think about it too. If I had to pick the fittest team right now, I don't know.
The Warriors, for me, are probably the team that's played 80 minutes longer than most.
And I feel like that exposes them to the early gas out of a new coach.
Possibly.
We'll see when it comes to it. We'll get to them soon. Anything else about these blokes, Ollie?
Not really.
Anything else you got?
For me.
Yeah, enjoyed the game. I think much more upside to come from... I think... I don't want to say they're flatlining, but I think what we saw from Souths is what we're going to get.
Yeah.
But I think also, I said last week, geez, Cody Walker's now he's now getting towards having. He's had probably 2 good games since Reynolds left, and he's probably cost them 4.
I don't know why they re-signed him in the off-season, to be honest.
I don't. Well, because he's still a marquee player right now. I don't know if he's
a couple of years ago.
I don't know if he's going to be a marquee player. And this is off the back of that year he had that massive Supercoach year because he had, and he did play very well. But I think teams have now worked him out. If you're South, realistically, you'd almost be pushing to get Latrell into 6 and start again.
Yeah, possibly.
Start it, go and find someone else, or get Taff up and going.
I said it last year.
They won't do it though. They won't, but that means that's where they're going to be.
For probably at least the first half of last year, one of the contributing factors to why Ilias probably wasn't consistently sort of hitting that high level that some were expecting him to, I think, was down to Cody Walker. To be honest, sort of trying to take too much control and forcing mistakes and sort of like smothering possession too much in attack where
now it's Elias's team. Now it's Elias's team. He'll be better for it. He's a very, very good first grade halfback. He'll have his quiet weeks, but they all do.
So the 3-2-1 for me is a bit confusing out of this game, to be honest, because if you look through it, the Souths had more standout players than what the Roosters did. But the Roosters as a team performed better than what you had with South. So I had Kulamatanga as the best player on the field. I thought he was easily the best player on the field.
I went Teddy 3.
I thought he was fantastic.
Because I just thought
I didn't even have Teddy on my list,
well,
to be honest.
But I thought Jared was the match winner.
Yeah, true.
But he played third. I actually, and apparently he didn't even get a Dally M point out of this game. He was the difference. I had Jared as had to get a point. Kulamatanga is fantastic, and they've worked out a lot of the. There's so many great. They've set up so many teams now have those try-scoring edge back rowers.
But he's another one who works as well.
Tell us your 3-2-1.
Well, I had Kulamatanga as 3, and then I had Jackson Paulo from Roosters as 2, and then I either had Campbell Graham or Victor Radley for the 1.
What are you thinking, Ollie?
You could probably throw Wira Hargraves or Murray in there as well.
I had Wira Hargraves, Teddy, and I think Paulo has to get a point at least. Maybe
I think Paulo has to get a point. I really liked what I saw from Kulamatanga, so I'm happy to sort of concede that to you, Barney. I mean, it sort of has to be kind of this year where he gets that call up for New South Wales if he keeps playing with the form that he has been. He's been in and around the past couple of years. I think it's got to be this year, especially coming off of an Origin loss, but he's been fantastic.
Didn't he play a game last year or was just a 18th?
He was 18th. I think he was 18th man for the whole series maybe, or at least he was on the extended.
Yeah.
But also today, I think Teddy's got to be in there with a shout as well. So I'm happy to concede Kulamatanga the 3, but where do you want to go in terms of the 2 and the 1 for Paulo and today?
I'll give. Oh yeah, that's tricky. I didn't have Kulamatanga in there, but you're not wrong. I think Jared has to get a point.
Oh, true.
Jared has to get a point. Teddy has to get at least.
So we rubbed the winger out because he's a winger.
Paulo was Paulo was so good.
I know.
He played more than just a winger's role. God damn it, he was good. We should just do.
We should give an honorary point.
The NRL's doing now and give them
players. Let's not confuse GT.
I say we just leave
one
Teddy.
Step
we'll
at
just
a time.
leave Teddy out because he'll get points the next couple of weeks. We'll go.
Yeah, actually, you can't just brush Teddy.
Nah, brush Teddy. Jared 1, Paulo 2.
You're saying Kulamatanga 3.
Absolutely.
Ollie?
All right.
Why don't we give Paulo 3?
You can do that if you want.
Go on. Give Paulo 3.
Yeah.
Go on. All right. I hope that makes sense, GT. Wait till next year when you've got
Jackson
you're
Paulo
going to be tallying
Keon 2,
23 votes a game.
Jared Warrior
We're going to put him in
1.
from 17 to 1 every game. Anyway. All right. What do we got next? We've got to get to Saturday. The first game kicked off with look at this, Ollie. We've got the Velvet Flog involved with this one because we've got the Titans 38. The Storm 34.
How would you be?
Can I just preface this straight off the bat?
Of course you can. Why not?
Melbourne were terrible.
Maybe Melbourne are terrible. Maybe Melbourne are terrible. All these people keep saying, "Oh, that'll be fine, that'll be fine," but maybe they are terrible. Maybe they've got the best spine in the comp and a reserve grade team around them. Anyway, what does stats
Close
say?
enough to it, I think. Yeah, I think you might not be far off the mark
No,
there.
I think you've just got to now say this is what they are and stop making it. People, they'll still make the 4. How? How will they make the fucking 4?
Make 4. 6 tries apiece, 5 out of 6 conversions for both sides, 2 out of 2 penalty attempts for the Titans, 30 out of 42 sets played. Is that 24 out of 38 for the Storm? Yep. 3 line breaks to 6, 18 tackle busts to 27, 8 offloads to 6. No forced dropouts, no 40-20s. 276 tackles made by the Titans, 288 made by the Storm. 1 ruck infringement against 2, 1 inside the 10 for both teams. 5 penalties conceded by the Titans, 8 conceded by the Storm. 13 errors to 17. Randall with 31 tackles, Grant with 41, Tino with 145 running metres, and Katoa with 163. Grant with 105 Supercoach points, Meaney with 103, and then 2 other Storm players before you got down to Brian Kelly on 65 for the Titans.
What a man. A man amongst men. Now, the good news is they won't have to worry about where Bellamy goes next year because they'll kill him this year. He will have a heart attack in the box and die. So, thoughts and prayers with his family. 63% completion rate. That's Tigers territory.
That is.
As were Para earlier.
Newcastle
and you just can't win games in that set. But, mate, their defence was awful. They had no sort like I stumped up and I told everyone to go buy Will Warbrick. He's in the conversation for Pop Plant, and he's lucky there's some other teams playing this week.
What was he? A rugby sevens player. He looks like a touch footy player.
He's a touch footy
player. He's not
player.
interested in
He was
contact.
burnt for speed 3 or 4 times, but 2 led to tries. That right edge defence is
jump.
fucking when the Titans' edge defence is putting you to shame. Yeah, can't jump. He actually probably should be playing back row somewhere. He doesn't want to tackle, so there he is. Unfortunately, I'm saddled with him.
You might get one more week out of him. He might get another 5 or 10 grand.
He's playing a Tigers, so he's going to score 6 tries this week.
So you might get another little bit of money out of him and sell him the week after.
He's already lost some money on 200. So how will you?
No, he hasn't lost money.
But he.
What are you looking at?
But they are. If Harry Grant wasn't on this field, Titans would have won by 20.
By 20 at least.
At least they were awful. Katoa tries very hard, but my God, he pumpkins up as well. I think there was once, you probably wrote it down, or you'd have it minute by minute. You want to do it?
Get into it.
You want to do the minute by minute for the Katoa penalties? There was like 3 penalties in 4 seconds or something.
Just quickly on your Warbrick note, when Jaden Campbell was moved out to the centres, how did they not have him just
running straight at him
and trying to tire him out? But they didn't. They kept going to the left edge instead of the right.
He doesn't want the ball.
Nah.
He doesn't go looking for it. He's not interested.
Yeah, but that was a huge missed opportunity. And look, for the first note I've got here was for the Titans' first try, Storm right edge missing. That was just like they just let the Titans walk over there for Khan's first try. And I've got here 8.5 minutes into the game, Melbourne give away a couple of penalties early. Well, boy, that wouldn't be the end of that story. And I know the big sort of negative point in terms of looking at the stats for Melbourne are the errors, but I actually think it's the penalties that really that led to more positive things happening from the Titans and really were Melbourne's downfall in this game. On debut, Pezzett at 5'8", I don't think he was horrible. I thought
he's quite good. He'll be fine.
Off that scrum for Melbourne, I think it was for their first try, sort of what he was able to create there. I think that was good from him. He was probably one of Melbourne's better players on the field. Yep. Now, this is where at the start of the show I sort of mentioned that I felt like someone from Melbourne probably should have been on report. That wasn't. I haven't actually watched this back, so I just want to get your guys' thoughts on it. When Tana Boyd, I thought he was taken high there by Justin Olam, and it wasn't a penalty. He wasn't put on report, anything. Did he get him high? Am I off with the fairies here?
I thought it was both. I thought it was a shoulder charge. And I actually, watching it live, I went in, I've watched it, and I went, where would I have been in the deck? I went in to do something, thinking he was about, I thought he was going to get sent off.
Yeah.
I actually thought it was direct shoulder contact to the head, and I thought, he's going, this is not good. I think I put in one of the chats, oh dear. I thought he was gone. And then came back, and it was nothing. It was odd. What do you think?
I think the fact that he was falling backwards was his head was sort of just that fraction away, so that most of the contact was absorbed in the middle of the chest.
Yeah.
But it definitely should have been a penalty, and probably should have been a week as well. But
and they didn't show another angle where it was lower, but it still was. You could have made an argument for a shoulder charge. But live, I thought off. I just went, he's going. But
100%.
Yeah, I think because Boyd was falling backwards, he didn't actually contact the head. But if he was standing upright, he would have taken his head clean off.
There was some interesting things around whiplash this round where they took Hastings off and arguably cost Newcastle a chance of finishing that game. They didn't take Boyd off. They didn't take... There was another
Fogarty
one.
off with the Sharks.
Didn't take Fogarty. Didn't take Burton off.
And he got snapped. I don't know how. Oh, it was Nakora, wasn't it?
Nakora
Absolutely
snapped him.
Flattened him.
And
he should have gone. You can't tell me
they didn't take Burton off
that.
but put it on report for high in the Tigers game. Anyway.
And
weird.
Probably for about the next 5
minutes.
minutes.
Unless maybe the independent doctors just shut his mouth and now scared to do anything.
Possibly.
Yeah. I don't think that should be the case. I think it should be the reverse. It should be more of an effort to get players off by the club doctors. But anyway, for the next 5 minutes...
I wonder if it's possible, and this, I know we don't want to drag this down into rhetoric, but I wonder if it's possible to do a HI in 5 minutes these days. Whether they can... Because people don't want a 15-minute one, but maybe that's what the time it takes a concussion symptom to come through. But I wonder if it gets trimmed up to 5 or 7 or 8 minutes where the people...
Delayed concussion come in hours later.
It comes in when you're lying in bed at 2 a.m. and you
then wake up
can't see the roof. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I think they would do the test straight away, wouldn't they?
What's I mean? Like
I
the
think
actual
they generally
test,
do, yeah.
I believe, my understanding is test
but then
is
they
a
have to
series
do
of
another
questions.
one 15 minutes later if they pass the first
right.
one.
Yeah, my understanding is it's a series of questions that you've answered at the start of the year and you've got to match your answers.
Oh, match your answer from the
Because
start.
people have been capable of cheating it by just memorising the answers. Well,
as well as where are you, what day is it, blah, 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 who you're playing.
Yeah. Well, after this, for the next 5 minutes, the Melbourne just kept handing the ball over to the Titans within probably the Melbourne's 30-metre line, and I was starting to get frustrated here because for a bit nothing was happening. And the Titans forwards, other than David Fafita, were starting to go sideways a bit, and it sort of seemed... The reason why I was frustrated is because they were near the line, and even though it was early in the set, they were trying to look... It was as if it was the last tackle every play, and there was like a minute to go, and they were looking to try and who they could pass it to, and they were getting called up until he didn't score, but bang, David Fafita was the one really only making meters until Melbourne knocked the ball on. The Titans get a scrum feed, and then they get a 6 again, and then a penalty. And I thought, geez, the Titans have to score here, and they did through Khan Pereira's second try. And then pretty much straight after that, Kieran Foran drops the ball on from the kickoff, and we get Nick Meaney's first try. I thought he was okay in this one as well. Then Sims crashes over for Melbourne's next. And then the next try for Melbourne, and I started getting worried here because I thought, okay, so in that second half of the first half, Melbourne probably had that ascendancy, and it was their best period of the game. But it was funny seeing Nick Meaney make that break, trip over, play the ball, run back around, get the pass, and then score, which he did for Melbourne late in the first half. And then I had a stat here, 37 and a half minutes into the game, the Titans had been tackled in Melbourne's 22 times. The Melbourne tackled in the Titans 26 times, so not even a full set in the Titans 24 Melbourne. However, at that time, they were up in the game. And I've got here a smart grubble by Brimson through to Brian Kelly to score. And I had here to keep the Titans within touching distance at halftime because honestly, I thought it was all going Melbourne's way here and they were going to kick on in the second half. And I thought, well, at least it might not be a blowout now. But the Titans didn't need to worry about that because Melbourne just decided in the second half they were going to hand the Titans the game, which was nice. And again, that play that you sort of alluded to, Daggy, from Katoa, just that peanutted play that led to the try from Vuna 42 and a half minutes into the game.
Didn't he knock on, then he gave away a penalty the next tackle. Then didn't he give away, two tackles later, gave another penalty?
Yeah, but I think this takes the cake. Because, right near him, it was about 10 metres out from Melbourne's line. He picks up the ball. He's getting tackled. He's going down in the tackle. All his teammates think, okay, he's taking the tackle. And then he just goes, meh. And throws the everyone's standing around going, what the shit was that? And then Vuna just comes through, picks the ball up and scores. I thought, Jesus. And then 4 minutes later, the drop pass from Jerome Hughes, we sort of passed it to no one, I guess. It was a wobbly pass. Picked up by Shoop, bang, downfield, 75 metres to score the try. And then at the 60th minute, the penalties were 4 to the Titans, none to the Storm. And this is what I'm talking about here, because it's not necessarily that giving away those penalties were leading to the Titans scoring, but the fact is those penalties were just leading to Melbourne not having the ball and not having an opportunity to get back. Because usually when the Titans do have a couple of tries and they get ahead of a team, I'm worried because the team usually then tries to hit back and score. Well, Melbourne didn't have an opportunity to, because they didn't give themselves an opportunity, because it was just penalty after penalty after penalty. And then after looking poor for a while, with about 14 minutes to go, Hughes scores for a repeat set, which I thought Jerome Hughes was okay in this one as well. He had sort of glimpses. He had moments where he looked dangerous, I thought. But then Shoop gets his second try with about 6 minutes to go, and it's sort of all but wrapped up there. Grant with the grubber through to Coates for his try late, kept Melbourne in it. But funnily enough, in a Titans v Storm game where Melbourne scores late and it's a close game, I didn't feel worried, because I think the Titans still probably had the momentum, purely because Melbourne was still screwing shit up, and the Titans managed to hold on and win. This was a very weird game to watch. I didn't think we would be heading into a game next week where if the West Tigers lose, you go, geez, it's worrying signs for the Tigers. They've managed to lose to Melbourne.
Well, I sort of half think you've hit the nail on the head, isn't it? Yeah, mate, go for it. Yeah. Nah, go for it, man. You right? Yeah.
Yeah, just on Jerome Hughes, I thought he was probably a little more unorganised than I've seen him for a while, to be honest. There were some flashes of really good play, but there was some stuff that you never see out of him, like the pass 4 metres behind everybody and then Shoop runs away and runs the length of the field. The shot that we mentioned at the start of the game with the shoulder charge, which now probably going to put him out for a week or two.
Yeah.
And just some disorganised play in the middle of the field where he was. I don't know if it was didn't know where his options were outside him, or that they weren't running the right lines that they're meant to be doing. But there was a few times he got sort of caught with the ball, and just didn't seem as organised and controlled as he normally does. Whether there's something on his mind or who knows.
I think he's just a lone ranger. I think he's
true.
Expecting people to pop up and. We'll call it Appy syndrome.
Yeah, the big takeaway for me in this one was the Titans. The biggest pleasing thing, if I was a Titans fan, was the fight that they put in for 80 minutes. I don't think I've seen it for a good year and a half. They fought from the very start of this game to the very last minute. And the biggest one was David Fafita, and you never see that from David Fafita. He was in this game from the start till the end. Probably didn't break the game open like he can at times, but he was in for the grind, and he put in the grind, which we've been asking out of him for, year and a half?
Yeah. If he's turned the corner, then sweet.
Yeah.
If he's turned the corner, then absolutely.
And they scrambled really well, especially in the last 15 to 20 minutes, because the Storm were coming in that last 15 to 20 minutes, and Oli said that he wasn't worried. I was worried for you, mate, because they weren't coming, but they did extremely well.
I was more not worried when Melbourne scored their last try. There was still that middle period of the game where it was a bit, but yeah.
Yeah, but they did extremely well to just continually turn up, and like every time the ball hit the ground, they were the first one there to pick it up. They were, and if they weren't the first one there, they were hitting the bloke that from the Melbourne team that did pick it up as soon as he touched the ball, and that was probably the biggest pleasing thing for me from the Titans.
I think Shoop's a great in. Like, you're looking for that effort from those outside backs. He's someone who gives that.
They used to just waltz in tries in that position for the last year, 2 years. They just every team had set up and attacked that right-hand edge of the Titans, and they'd score points. And he's quite a good defender, obviously, and he's got a little bit of pace as well, which helps.
That's it. They still conceded 34.
True.
So, is that more indicative of just the heat and everything going on, or was there, Harry Grant's still the superstar? And
Harry, he set up 2, I think, didn't he? And
2 try assists. I think there was a couple of kicks behind the line and just turned around when he needed to.
4 tackles as well.
AJ back at fullback. Oli, you happy?
Yeah, he got 2 try assists in this game, 140 running metres. And the thing I sort of want to point out, and I'm sort of more looking to give fullbacks and edge players, in terms of your centres and wingers, maybe More props for this year because you don't see it too often. Games where they don't miss a single tackle. And AJ only had to make 6, but he made 6 from 6. He didn't miss any tackles at all during the game. So I thought as solid a defensive effort as he needed. And you just mentioned Aaron Troop as well, and his defense. He made 10 tackles, which was by far the most of any of the Titans' back 5 as well.
Yeah, they yeah. Okay, just final word, Ollie. You happy? You happy with the Titans headed, or are you just saying Melbourne had cooked?
I can't not be happy. I'm happy with David Fifita, to be honest. He's opening to the season, even when the Titans weren't great against the Dragons last week. I still thought he was all right, and I'm mainly happy with certain people. I'm happy with Shoop. I'm happy with Brimson as well. But like this game, like I think that the big story for this game, and rightfully so, is around Melbourne, because we talk about how the Titans usually give up in games. Well, they probably got to a point in this one when Melbourne started giving them penalties where they thought, this isn't the team we versed 12 months ago. Like this is a bad team. We might as well just keep plucking away at it and just. Because even when Melbourne were giving away those penalties, it wasn't like the Titans were actively going down and scoring points, as I said. So they probably just thought, as long as we hold on to the ball, get through our sets, we're at least going to be in it at the end with a chance to win. And they were.
All you really asked for, isn't it?
There was a couple of pivotal moments, I thought, which sort of did change the game. The try just before half-time for the Titans, that was a godsend that they really needed with the Storm being on the front foot there. And as you mentioned, the pass that Shoop swept on and then ran 70 metres down the other end of the field. If Storm score there, who knows what happens in that game. But obviously it turns around and the Titans run the length of the field to score. So.
Yeah. Interesting rotation. Holbrook says all about the heat, but Foran had 20 minutes on the sideline. Boyd, whether it's intentionally to get Campbell into this team at some, crowbar him somewhere. But
they didn't look bad with him off the field.
No, yeah, I think Foran would have stayed on. I think
apparently
a lot of that
it was the heat to do with it was trying to give him 20 minutes in the heat. So. Because
it was he was off during halftime plus that period after halftime as well, and I think a lot of that purely comes down to, again, not necessarily how well the Titans were playing, but Melbourne just kept handing them the ball back, so they probably thought, you know what, we don't necessarily need him on right now. We'll give him a little bit longer. I think if Melbourne were probably looking like they were pressing him a bit more, then Foran probably comes back on earlier.
Yeah.
The outside backs for the Storm really had very little impact, realistically, apart from a couple of big shots from Olam, one we mentioned earlier. But I thought Meany was really good, especially in his support play, which you mentioned already. Their halves were decent. I thought Tariq Sims and King were good in the middle for them, but there probably wasn't much help apart from those guys.
I could tell was still.
He was very good running the ball, but as you said, he made some mistakes there. Yeah. And Grant was easily their best player on the field, and I think he has been for the 3 games that they've played this year. So another one where there was no real huge standouts for the Titans.
I actually don't.
Melbourne had some of the really big standout players, but they had a lot of blokes that went missing, whereas the Titans as a whole were pretty good across the majority of the field. Did a decent job. I thought Luai and Mo were pretty good in the middle of the field. Tanner Boyd had quite a good game, considering Ollie gave him a rev up last week about his performance.
I think he's been right.
And Tino and Fifita were their best. Tino and Fifita just dominated the middle of the field for large chunks of this game. So,
is it the way we're heading?
I had Grant as 3. I know he played in a losing team, but
like I said, I honestly think
instrumental in everything they did.
Get beat by 20 plus if he's not.
And then I had Fifita and Tino, or maybe Meany, but I'm happy with Fifita and Tino as the 2 and the 1.
Well, I think Fifita and Tino were more that constant throughout the game. You didn't necessarily, other than Fifita when he was the only one really pressing Melbourne's line near the line early on in the game, they don't really stand out. But it's that consistent effort. Over 120 run meters each and over 20 tackles each. Neither of them missed a tackle either. Yep. So they were the pillars, I guess you could say.
You happy with Harry at 3? Or you would want to push for one of them?
I'm happy to give Harry 3. He was definitely Melbourne's best. I'd go Fifita 2, Tino 1.
I'm happy to side with you there, Ollie. Sounds good to me.